why or if AI will replace software engineers. And it's a topic that's been coming up quite recently. And I know from my experience, I've seen a lot of engineers and developers on the web sort of, kind of cautious and feeling a little bit stressed about if that's actually going to be the case or not. So that's why we have this panel today, and that's why we're going to dive into a more interesting and deeper discussion about that, and hopefully come out of some interesting key points. Today with me, I have two awesome guests here as well. We've got Julia and we've got Michael. Do you guys just want to give a short introduction about yourself? Edward, sorry, I apologize. I apologize.
No
do you just want to give a quick introduction about yourself?
Of course. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm head of developer relations over at Infobip. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So hi guys, happy to be here. I'm Edward and I'm lead software engineer in Gadol Technology. We're investigating different ways how we can integrate AI solutions in our company, and I'm included in the team. That's why I'm here and want to share my opinion. Thanks.
Awesome, awesome. And I guess I'll give an introduction about myself too. I'm Filip Grabowski. I'm a developer advocate at Permit.io, but I'm also a tech YouTuber, and I'm a podcast host of a podcast called Command Shift Left. So I've been, I've been hearing a lot. I'm pretty active on the web, so I definitely see a lot of insights from different engineers and developers talking about AI and what's been going in the subject. So I kind of want to start off with you guys and ask you a very simple question: is what's your experience like has been in the past months when kind of AI has started becoming a thing? Usually we consider this something that's, it's in the daily life and we agreed that it's there, but it didn't feel like it might have some sort of effect. But recently with OpenAI and it coming into existence and them dropping the bomb of ChatGPT and all of that on us, how did that make you feel and what do you think about it?
It has definitely become a bit more real recently. Like, okay, it was there for the past couple of years, but okay, like AI, yeah, sure, taking over the world, sure. But in the past couple of months, weeks, it's become real to the point where it's been coming up at work. Like, oh, so there is this thing now. How are we gonna leverage it? Real serious discussions. Okay, there was the initial panic / buzz of, ooh, so we don't need to hire all those developer educators to write the content. We can just generate it, right? And then there was, of course, explaining educational phase within the company that's not quite how it works. But then it went over, okay, this is happening for real. There is value in it. Let's see how we as a company can make the most of it and leverage it. So it has shifted into actual planning and conversations around what we can do with it, as opposed to the past couple of years where we were kind of aware of it, but nobody really took it that seriously.
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing actually recently now. It's engineers starting to find ways of adopting it in their daily lives and making their work easier to be more efficient. But what about you? What do you think, Edward?
Yeah, so I'm started when I was the first person in our development team who just mentioned some kind of ChatGPT and said, guys, could you see, it's amazing. It could generate something like task, it could generate something like stories. And let's take a look at this okay, I say it's very strange. It's another regular AI. So what do you want from us? We have AI division and no way how we can use it. But I just push this topic, and this topic make possibility to make presentation inside our company, and we started now we are on the way of integration of investigation how we can use it inside the company. And I think that the main question is to make some good practices how we can use it in some engineering flows, and that is what we are doing now.
So it seems like you've managed to convince your team, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that's a good thing. There's different opinions about that. Some people might think it's not that good. Some people might think it's good. But I think one kind of topic that comes up the most is do we cut the line between how assistive AI can be, and when does it actually start to replace us? So do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm a little skeptical so far about AI replacing us. Like, I think it can replace simple repetitive tasks.
Right.
I don't think that is something we should be afraid of. I think that is something we can welcome, because it frees up time and resources to focus on something that is more important, more valuable. And okay, maybe half the jobs we have today will not exist in 10, 20 years, but that doesn't mean that half of us are going to be without a job. That just means that the jobs are changing, the work we do is changing, and taking the assistive help of AI can free up our time and resources to do something else.
So you're saying that anything that is in a way kind of productivity related, so anything that we can automate, like maybe for example, generating some pieces of code, that's one thing. Writing tests could be another, right? Is that kind of the direction you're seeing this go? So automating the daunting tasks that are very, very repetitive and take a lot of time from the engineers, where they could technically be using that time for something much more valuable?
Exactly. In programming, just the examples you've given. In real life, for example, in a factory, in production, also like automating the things that don't necessarily require that much brain power or human supervision. Or let's say in writing, I struggle when I need to write something to start from a blank page. And I actually noticed you're using Notion as well.
I am using Notion.
And I signed up for the trial for Notion AI and started using it. Just drop a starter text in there. And that doesn't mean that the AI is going to write the copy instead of me. It just gives something to work with. And I still would emphasize that it's mostly assisted, because I think we're not there, and I don't see it going to the point where we can just mindlessly accept whatever AI generates. It still needs the human to supervise. Like, you still need to be in charge, not just mindlessly accept anything.
Correct. Although I do have an interesting story I'd like to tell on that very, very quickly. And when first GPT-4 came out, so the latest version of it, the one that supposedly is much more creative and much more kind of enhanced in the way it can produce answers and generate code, I went onto LeetCode. Who guys know here LeetCode? It's for like testing algorithms. Essentially, you can train yourself with algorithms. And a really cool thing about that is that it ranks you based on the speed of the algorithm and the memory that it uses. And I actually put it into GPT-4. I ran that whole test. And it came out not that great. And then I asked GPT-4, hey, can you improve upon yourself? Can you rewrite this or give me solutions of the best practices or the best kind of ways of making it faster and more memory efficient? And it said, well, we can do this, this, and this. And I said, well, okay, let's have it do that. And it produced that code. I put it into LeetCode, and it actually generated the fastest, first of all, the fastest performant algorithm on LeetCode. And also the one that uses the least memory efficiency. And at that point, I think that was the point in my life with GPT or just AI, where I realized, well, maybe we're getting somewhere here that's much more than we assumed that it might be. So now, following this question, I want to ask you, Edward, like, do you think there are any limitations of AI? Do you think that at some point we're going to see it, for example, not do very well in certain tasks, especially for engineers and the daily workflows that we might have?
Yeah. So from my point of view, and from the point of view of my colleagues, for now, AI solutions, even ChatGPT, it's like some vibe. Yeah, it has a lot of issues like provenance, updatability, and efficiency, and it's very tricky issue, especially provenance. When you generate some content with ChatGPT, it just like you have some kind of conversation,
Mhm.
yeah, and you just believe to each message from ChatGPT, and but you must think about it like it generates most statistically appropriate sequence of words, nothing more.
Right. Very true.
And sometimes I made some cases when you have some very simple request and it gives you some answer. It very simple, but it absolutely false, absolutely false. And even I made some cases when some code was generated and it's like I never seen such code, and I just to start Google it, to start where it could be used, and there is no place for it.
When you say never seen such code, was it just very, very bad code, or just it didn't
No,
make any
no,
sense?
it just like some opportunities for framework that is not exists at all.
Right, right. So
It's
just
not
complete.
Yeah, it does not exist in documentation,
Okay.
even official in all documentation.
mhm.
I up all the documents about frameworks, and there is no any opportunity to use this feature. And my question, where did you get it from?
Right.
And I just remember that it just statistically prediction, nothing more.
Right.
And it could fail.
Yeah, we have to remember that any piece of data, it's trained on models. So it depends on how much data and different data you feed it. That's how much it's technically going to know. Now, one thing that exists with AI that we have to remember is that it will always require some kind of maintenance. It will always require some kind of training of those data models, right?
Yeah.
So that's already some sort of limitation that we're having here. Now, do you think at one point that we will be able to have an AI that's going to train itself? Julia? Hard question.
That's a tough one.
I know.
Well, I'm no AI expert, so this is purely an opinion, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. And I've actually had a conversation about this with someone regarding content and content generation and AI generated written content. That, it's actually doing a pretty good job. And when do we get to the point where all content will be AI generated and it's getting better and better and more like less obvious that it is AI generated content? And this person's point was actually quite a good one, that for the generation to work, it is being fed current content that people have written, at least from a content point of view.
Right. Yeah. I definitely agree. And I mean, maybe you, Edward, from kind of a very strict engineering perspective, like how do you think if it would ever be possible, like is it something that will be extremely difficult to achieve? And in order to, I suppose, in order to have AI to be able to go so far in it for itself to almost be recursive, right? It trains itself, it releases data, and then trains itself again. I assume that's will require, maybe it's not just even engineering work, but it's just the time required to even get to that stage, right?
Yeah. But I can share the case how it could be for now. For example, OpenAI provides you an opportunity to fine-tune your model, not their models, their text models. You can take any model and fine-tune it with your data. For example, with some film reviews, you know it if you guys read documentation from OpenAI. And for this fine-tuning, you need two type of dictionaries: one for studying and one for verifying your model. And you know that you can use different some other models to generate these dictionaries from your content. For example, in our company we have some internal presentations, and we process these presentations with special AI models, and they provide us with such kind of dictionaries, and we could organize this process recursively,
Right.
and another point about fine-tuning, that it needs not so much data to fine-tune, to create your model. You need very few data. For example, very simple text or very simple presentation, and the result of this model will be much better.
Mm-hmm.
And we have tested it in our company.
Okay, very, very interesting. I kind of now, something came to mind, and I want to kind of turn a different direction here with AI, and it's the whole case of it being ethical. And I think that's something that especially a lot of engineers, or just the whole fact of replacing the jobs of engineers with AI, it would cause a lot of issues with, for example, people's privacy. What if now an engineer or someone gets replaced and AI is doing all of the working for like banking or maybe for healthcare? And then how is that data managed? There is always that kind of human touch that we have when someone is working and suddenly it's gone. So what is your standpoint on maybe the ethical kind of standard of AI? Another hard question.
Thank you. From a where the data is managed point of view, I used to have a talk that has a main takeaway that it's always the human factor that fails. So with all the automations and AI and everything, I don't feel like it's necessarily a bigger risk than a human would be. But then, for example, when we look at self-driving cars, even though human drivers make way more mistakes, somehow we are more apprehensive about the car itself making a mistake. So even if
Right.
it's a tiny fraction of the mistakes a human would make, we still feel differently about it when it's the machine that fails. So from that perspective, I'm not particularly scared of AI, although I do see there is an ethical question about where is the information coming from, what data is being trained on. And I see this especially in art and generated art, where realistically the AI is generating a piece of artwork using other artists' work as a base. And quite a lot of people from the art community are opposed to this, and understandably so, because there's years of training that go into that, and hard work, and then generative AI takes it out and actually produces nice outcomes, which people seem to enjoy and post all over the internet and Twitter. But we can't really see the origin, and credit isn't given. And I don't think we can, at this point, trace where credit should be given.
Yeah, you actually raised a very important point, because at one point, if everything is controlled by AI and there's a mistake, who do you blame? Well, do you blame the AI? Well, who's the AI, right? And it's some those sort of questions that come up where it just makes things, specifically key security things, really, really difficult to kind of nail down. And we never know. AI might become, in some way, maybe dangerous at one point. There's always that aspect that we see from movies where we watch this AI and it takes over the world, and we're all kind of familiar with it. We always thought, well, it probably will never get there. This is just science fiction. But slowly, we're seeing steps, be taken by AI where we start feeling a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit more uncomfortable, and it just gets to the point, well, suddenly at one point something is going to happen. Well, who knows? Maybe they're already working on it. Maybe they already have it, where it will feel strange to be around it, and it will feel uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
But I think there is one important aspect that we should always kind of have as the fundamental, and is that AI is right now used as a tool, and it's not a solution for anything, right? So obviously there is a lot of when it comes with solutions, there's a lot of help that we can get from it, but we can't necessarily predict what's going to be in the future. So I mean, I'd kind of love to throw it at you, Edward, and kind of direct the question: what do you think about kind of AI in sorts of way being able to produce solutions where it can't empathize with the end user? Because very often we find that when we design a piece of software, we design it because a user needs it, and we have to meet the end user's requirements. But if the AI can emphasize, and if it can understand the problem, how will it solve it?
Yeah, so first of all this vibe begins from I think ChatGPT, right?
Right.
And ChatGPT is a language model, and I met a lot of opinions that will AI replace software engineer position, and a lot of articles said no. No, there are very complicated tasks. You need to have conversations between customer and engineers to describe task, to prepare some, I don't know, notes for customers, some comments, right? But now you can, I don't know, write your conversation, translate it to text, and pass through ChatGPT, and it will gives you I don't know, completed sequence of stories that can be put to Jira, Confluence, and here could be used different plugins that could create first templates for documentation, and it's our reality. And you know that the most, I don't know, things that I'm afraid of is that it was spent dozens million of dollars for GPT-3 model, right? And what if we spent $1 billion of those? Yeah, I couldn't even imagine what we can reach with
and achieve. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. And I think kind of I want to start to nail down because authorization, it's something that's quite close to my heart, and we're kind of all familiar with the fact that you know, being able to allow someone access is quite difficult. Now, what happens when there is certain pieces of information with AI, or what it does? How do you guys think we'll be able to control that? It's an open question to both of you.
I think it's a rather actual question. If I understood you right, so it's an actual issue updatability for these language models. As you can see, if you make some request for ChatGPT for now, it has limit for September of 2021, right? And so it means that there were no any updates from this period. And it seems for now that they provide us with GPT-4 model, or maybe they're going to provide a GPT-5 model, and it's like just fine-tuned models for GPT-3, just like types of GPT-3 model. And I think that for now it's a great limitation for these models.
I think in general speaking, now taking it down back to the fundamentals, I think there is a bunch of advantages that we can kind of take out from. Now, that whole question which still stands, will AI replace software engineers? Well, I don't think it will, personally. I don't think that point will ever come. But I think from us, me and Julia being in the developer relations, and Edward being in just engineering, I think one of the things that we can definitely see a huge advantage, you know, come forth into the playground of many developers is using AI for things like documentation. Now, this has a whole wild impact on all of the engineering teams in the world, because every single engineer needs to understand the product, and the way they understand it is through documentation. Now, documentation in itself can always be quite difficult to understand, and there's a lot of many creative ways that we can use it to enhance it, to make it easier to understand, to make it easier to follow, to make it easier for it to be able to summarize everything. So that's one of the standpoints that we need to learn to work with. But do you guys have any other examples of how, for example, someone who might be scared that currently their job is affected by AI, and that role of AI maybe replaces some chunk of their daily kind of tasks, how they can maybe utilize it to their advantage?
I would just recommend to start playing with it. Really, because us as people tend to be scared of things we don't know. So the closer you get to the technology, maybe the better you understand it, or just get a bit of experience and realize that there are ways of utilizing it in a way that benefits you. And I'm coming back to my previous point of, I don't think it's replacing people's jobs. Maybe it's replacing people's jobs as we know it today, but us humans are surprisingly adaptable, and we evolve throughout a lifetime. So we move on to newer tasks and new ways of working. And I think we should look at it as a positive direction.
Awesome. And you, Edward, do you have any kind of tip for the audience to how they can work with AI to their advantage? And and most importantly, not be scared by it.
First of all, I have a perfect case, and the second, first of all, my advice: make more investigation. Just try it. Try your everyday tasks, and I think that everything gonna be okay. But I have a perfect example. We had a task to create some kind of parser for byte stream from official documentation, and we made this task. It was completed, implemented, and nothing special about that. But several months later, I've decided just to get all documentation as text. It was unstructured. It was like, I don't know, simple text with tabs and new lines, and just put it to ChatGPT and ask it to generate all structures and all code that needed to create such parser. And these generated code and data structures were, I don't know, they were very, very similar to what we have done. And it was so amazing. I just shared among our team and said, guys, you see, it just like structures we do, and it's really amazing. And for me, for example, it's amazing how it could parse this unstructured documentation, because it provided not like HTML, it just provided like simple text. With description, what byte means. First byte is like count, second byte is like something else. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think in general there is a lot of opportunities there to work and to kind of implement it. And I know from a perspective of a social media person, I get hundreds upon hundreds of questions from people being worried. Hey, this is doing exactly what I need for my job. Like, what do I do along with it? And I think the kind of moral of the story that I think we all can agree on is, you can't be scared of it. You just have to learn how to work with it, and you have to learn how to use it to your advantage. Because in the end, the world is changing, everything is moving forward, and unfortunately, as engineers, this is not just with AI, this is with every kind of tool or software that we're learning. We have to constantly stay on top of it to be the ones that are going to do well. And I know how tedious it is, and I know how time consuming it is, but that's unfortunately the kind of way forward. Anyway, I think it's about time to kind of wrap up our discussion. I can see a bunch of questions from the audience, so I think it's a perfect time to take them. So let's start with the first one, I guess. Okay, I can't see that. I'm gonna have to stand up. First one from Rami: how would you manage colleagues, individuals accidentally feeding confidential information into ChatGPT? And is this a concern? Is our data then out there?
Yeah, it's extremely actual questions. And when I, for example, discussed GPT with colleagues, they said some companies have some restrictions, security policy, and in some companies, you know that for now, each software developer company it lives on its own, and some companies restrict ChatGPT, some companies fire juniors and replaces it with ChatGPT. But I think we need to think about some policy, and that is what we're going to implement in our company, to create some understandable and clear rules for everyone how you could use it. Because to my mind, no sense to restrict it, to close it. I could, for example, use it through my phone, not from laptop.
I mean, I think
no problem.
I think there is actually a lot of kind of restrictions being put into place, and I think one of the very common ones that you hear about today is plagiarism checkers, especially for AI. Now, obviously, when ChatGPT and all of that AI came out, where you could generate a bunch of text and use it to your advantage, well, obviously, all those university students, they just had a really easy last final year writing their dissertations in like 15 minutes, and they're good to go. And it actually all made sense. Now plagiarism checks are being put in place, and I think a lot of companies are starting to come out with very strict policies of how they handle data, and they start to create very strict restrictions on how that data and what data you can actually put into an AI. So I hope that answers the question. There is definitely going to be very strict rules that are going to emerge very soon, if they already have not done so, where we will see that control over fragile and sensitive data. Okay, next question.
Philip, can I add some points?
Yeah, for sure.
So there are some models, there are solutions, and they know about this issue. For example, Tabnine, and they provide you an opportunity to deploy this model locally, and it would solve your problem. So you can deploy it in some internal infrastructure and use this model. But this model rather simple and are based on GPT-2 model. That is open source model. That's why, of course, GPT-3 and further is not available.
So when you say locally and internally, you mean without any connection to the internet, basically?
Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Next question, maybe I can direct that one to you. If you're feeling up for it, what do you think about ethical narrative that is ChatGPT often accused of? That's a hard one.
Which one?
Like the ethical narrative, the question.
Ethical narrative in the sense of
AI being accused of, breaking something ethically, doing something wrong. It's a difficult question. I'm trying to think of a.
There is an open court case currently. So.
Oh, there is an open court case.
Actually, it's been thrown out, I think, last week. But that means the process is being prolonged. I believe it was Copilot related.
Okay.
Due to not being able to prove the source of the code.
Yeah,
So there is definitely something questionable in there, and I do agree here with Edward that with new technology and new improvements, we also need new policies. Like I'm usually leaning towards the liberal side, but
right.
I do think that we do have to set some guidelines so that we can make the best of AI in a safe manner without crossing many boundaries.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of court cases coming soon, because with every piece of technology that seems advantageous or whatever it might be, people always use it to their advantage, and it sometimes doesn't go as to plan as it should. Okay, is there a chance that AI would be fully rejected? Oh, sorry, there was a comment that was ranked up. Have you heard about AutoGPT technology? Is it capable of feeding its responses back to the prompt? I have not. Have you guys heard of AutoGPT? It's I assume it's talking about the recursive aspect of GPT, so feeding its responses back. So I mean, like we touched upon, like you explained, Edward, it was that recursive concept of it feeding its own information. I personally haven't heard of AutoGPT. It's something new to me. Have you guys?
No,
No.
I never heard, but but I think that something must exist in this sphere. It's
It works. So, okay. So you're saying that now there is models. Okay.
yeah.
But just feeding the same answers in and. Okay.
It's
Cool.
not a problem to organize it with
Yeah.
API.
Okay. Well, scary, isn't it? All right, on to the next question. Is there a chance that AI would be fully rejected by community? Maybe just IT. Fully rejected by community. I don't think it will ever be something that everyone will say, no, I don't want to use it. This is something that just is not for me. As on the contrary, I think it's going to be the absolute opposite. I think most people will be happy to use it in some form or another in their daily lives, whatever it might be. Do you guys agree? Yeah.
I think we are already past that point. There is quite a big uptake already, and I don't see everyone rejecting it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Another question. What's your opinion on AI systems, data protection, and accessibility? Wow, these questions you guys are strong on that one. Data protection and accessibility. I think in regards to accessibility, I think like we've mentioned, there will be restrictions put in place where not everyone on your team will be able to access the tool, especially when you're working internally in some kind of very strict environment where the rules are very concise, and obviously there is big restrictions on you doing normal things. Well, there's going to be even bigger restrictions if you're doing things with AI because of the power that it just gives you. And of course, the Data Protection Acts, all the other kind of rules and regulations, they're going to be soon probably rewritten if they already haven't been done so already. All right, and I can see a last question. Speeding up your work duties with AI does not decrease your 8-hour working day. Will developer work week and salary decrease with AI assistance?
I think we are moving, or especially after COVID and with work from home, hybrid work, flexible working hours, we are already moving towards projects being delivered as opposed to butts in seats. Like, I do not expect my team to work for 8 hours. I expect them to deliver on what we agreed, whether it's done in 2 hours or 12. That's on them to decide how long it takes. And I think it's time to step away from the 8 hours, whatever.
5 days a
Like-
week,
like-
yeah.
You shut your computer at 5 p.m., whether you're done or not, or if you're done at 3 p.m., then you look around for 2 hours because, oh, it's 8 hours. I think it's high time we step away from that. So, yeah, I see AI actually pushing in that direction as well. And if you're more efficient, then you shouldn't be punished for it.
Yeah, I think we've already went past that point where people used it to their advantage, where suddenly you were one of the first that started using AI to aid your workflow, and you finished your day in half of the time and you closed your computer, or you just pretended to work for the rest of the time. So you've been a winner at that point. But at this point, I think employers are realizing that enhancing workflow with AI is quite a normal thing. I think it always comes to the standpoint that you get a certain amount of tasks set for the day. Well, if you're finished those in 6 hours, I think if it's a worthy amount of time, then it's good. I don't think you should be forced to work more because you're efficient. It doesn't work that way. And there was another question which disappeared. It was, oh yeah, ChatGPT vs BART or BART. I haven't played around with BART myself. I think the best way to answer that question is to have a vote with the audience. So put your hands up for ChatGPT. Well, let's do both. And put your hands up for BART. And in 1 year, put your hands up for ChatGPT. And BART in 1 year. Okay, I think it's a mixed vote. No declarative solution as of yet. All right, I think we approached the end of our time. Yes. People. I think people are limiting it. Oh yeah, of course. There's a huge amount of people out there who don't want it to who don't want it to be developed as quickly.
Okay. Why not hardware?
Why not hardware?
Yes, when you will be able to have this huge hardware at your home with the same speed as ChatGPT now have, you will not have problems with data privacy because it's only
Well, I'll tell you why. Because it all always comes down to money. People want to make money on all the technology, so they're limiting the speed at how it's developed because obviously companies want to make.
Okay, then in this case, people it's the wrong answer because people it's answer for everything. In this case, that's incorrect to say people.
Well, I said money. It's all about business in the world, isn't it? I mean,
Could I try to answer your question? We have several points also in our company. So the first limitation is, to my opinion, is hardware because for now I know that to supply the process of ChatGPT, it costed about $3 million per day. And you know, when you ask some question about ChatGPT, all this infrastructure are used. It's not like some you know that this model has a billion of parameters. This is like narrow language model, and when you use it, it used all of it. You can use some part of it. That's why efficiency is one of the issues that stops developing of AI models. And another important point is law regulations. You know that for now, for example, different European laws and in other countries they are just appeared for now. They are developing in the moment. It's not about blocking. It's about different requests. Some countries approve some requests, some are not, and this gives us maybe more time to prepare for some revolution changes.
I think what we'll do is you guys will be able to take it out offline. We have to wrap
Okay.
up. We're out of time. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Thank you to our awesome guests
Thank you so
who
much.
answered the questions
you.
very bravely, and even though there were some of them were tough. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.